Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name, as it says there, is Phil Hanson. I'm the Aviation Technical Assurance Manager for the Maritime Coastguard Agency in the UK. We, as the name suggests, anything that's technical in aviation comes across my desk or one of my team in the organisation. So what I'm going to do this afternoon, I'm going to give you a quick overlay of where we are and how we've come to how the MCA aviation has come to where it is today. And we will focus on drones or ARPAS as we move through this as well. So I just thought I'd start with a bit of context. We provide, so what does the MCA do? So the MCA provides National Maritime Coastal Search and Rescue Emergency Response, as it says there. And that's in the anywhere within the UK search and rescue region, which is the area shown on the map. I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't see that. It's the area shown on the map there. Which, as you can see, butts up to all our neighbouring states, the European states, Scandinavian states, up into Iceland, Greenland, but also across the Atlantic to America and Canada as well. So it's a huge area we cover. It's around about 2 million square miles that we cover search and rescue for the UK. We also promote maritime standards and safety, and indeed we are the regulator for the maritime sector. We encourage economic growth by encouraging other or UK operators to register under a red ensign and registered as a UK registered ship. That gives economic growth to the UK and helps us promote safety. And as it says in the last bullet, we are working really hard as a target to minimise the maritime sector's environmental impact. We're doing that in a number of ways, looking at ground power rather than having ships running while they're cruise liners, particularly running while they're in port, but also looking at alternative fuels, etc. You'll be pleased to know that I won't go through all these, but we do have a bunch of agreements that we are either signatories of or we are the leaders of. So some of these we are co-founders, some of them we are the leaders of, and some of them we are signatories of. But they are all international agreements that we sign up to as a UK state, and then the MCA are discharged to adhere to these regulations. The important one for us is safety of life at sea, which is the fourth bullet down there, which is a really big one for, and obviously the International Convention on Maritime SAR. So those are the big ones for us in the aviation side, which you'll see as we go through. Like I say, it's just to give you a bit of a flavour of the sort of situation we work in. Now, obviously, every government department works within a number of agreements, signatories to agreements and international rules and regulations. We are no different. So our current portfolio in aviation, our biggest single contract, these were all, by the way, provided by service providers. We don't own any assets. We largely don't own any infrastructure. And we don't employ any pilots or crews or engineers or anything. So it's all provided as a turnkey service by our service providers. Our biggest single contract is the provision of search and rescue helicopters. They operate from 10 bases around the UK, spread around the UK coast. Some of them are quite inland, but they are spread around the UK to give the coverage as far as we can in that search and rescue region. The two helicopters we use are pictured on the slide there. The bottom right is the Sikorsky S-92. And the one just above it is the AgustaWestland or Leonardo AW189. They're both fairly large helicopters, but they are placed very much in the areas where they fit the task befitting of that area. We have a counter pollution aerial verification and spray capability. That's a bit of a mouthful, that one. And that's provided currently by RVL up at East Midlands. And that's the picture of the 737 at 200 feet over the sea discharging its dispersant. That disperses oil and pollution that is found within UK waters. Have an aerial surveillance and observation capability as well, and that's the King Air on the top right, the picture on the top right there. It's brimming full of sensors, allows us to check for that the shipping's doing what it should be doing, that there's no pollution, and also it's a real big aid to our search and rescue capability as well. In response to the proliferation of small boats crossing the channel, we were charged to set up a channel search and rescue capability to support that operation, to support operations there in times of when there's an emergency. So if there's a search and rescue incident, these assets will go out and proactively look and check that that anything is not developing into a search and rescue incident. That's all we do is search and rescue. So they don't spy, they don't look at things, they just literally report back to our operations room to allow decision makers to make a decision as to whether to deploy a rescue asset or not. We'll go into those a little bit more as we go through the presentation here. So just to look at our current tasking statistics, and for search and rescue helicopters, this is pretty stable. So we do around about 2,000 tasks a year, land and maritime, and indeed nearly half the operations we do are over land in the mountains and in lowland areas as well. Approximately half the taskings are in support of other emergency services. So in other words, when we respond to an incident over land or in the mountains, that's actually a police responsibility, but we have the capability, so we respond on their behalf. And that, like I say, over the past 25 years, that has been pretty stable at around about 2,000 tasks a year. And we have obviously those records going back. The tasks vary in terms of what they are and the makeup of those tasks, but generally it is pretty stable at that. Our aerial surveillance capability, we've flown 1,500 hours in 2022. This has only been in service for nearly 3 years now, so it's not been in service for very long. So we don't have an awful lot of statistics for that. And it does different tasks. So as I said earlier, it can do SAR missions, it can be on a counter pollution mission, it can be patrols for environmental protection. But the important thing is we do let other government departments, we seek other government departments to use that capability. And over a third of all the flights, and at some times in the year, that's well over a half of all the flights that capability performs are on behalf of other government departments. So likes of fisheries protection, environmental protection, ordnance survey, etc. We do a whole bunch for other government departments. I want to focus on channel search and rescue for this presentation because that's kind of the only place that we're using drones currently. And as you can see there, we have a Schiebel S100, which is currently based at Lydd. So just want to say, just want to illustrate how we got to where we are with this capability and why we deployed it in the way we have. So we have, when I first came into the agency some nearly 8 years ago now, I was asked to look at some sample requirements that could be discharged by a drone. So I sat together with my maritime colleagues and I looked at colleagues from other government departments as well, and I pulled together a bunch of requirements which I believed could be, not necessarily would be, but could be delivered by a drone. or a drone could add to the capability. And you can see there's a list there. That list is a sample of the list. There's at least 3 times that list. But there's a couple that I wanted to pick out here, just to illustrate the fact that this really isn't a one-size-fits-all for us. So SAR coastal operations, I mean, you can see the picture there. The guys, and most of these, and you should bear in mind, most of these people are volunteers. They go up and down the cliffs to rescue people and their dogs, etc. They do this on a daily basis in some parts of the country. They have no idea when they go over that cliff whether they're going into the right area. So they can look before they go, but actually they don't know whether they're actually going into the right area. They don't know what they're going to find when they go over there. Is there vegetation that's going to trip them up? Are there craggy rocks? So to have that height of eye for them to be able to see where they're going, what to avoid, and how that's changed, since the last time they went down there, because they do go to the same place quite regularly, that would be invaluable. Now that is clearly a good job for a quadcopter type drone, and indeed my coastal colleagues, with my support, are investing in a trial to trial quadcopters now, just to check that out and to see what capability it brings. But also we have a capability for a wide area search of the littoral and maritime environment. That's clearly not a quadcopter drone. And that's over wide areas of open sea and at distance from land on some occasions. So clearly there's a need for a more persistent, higher level drone to deliver that, or ARPAS to deliver that capability. So that I just thought I'd bring that in just to show you that actually it isn't a one size fits all. We kind of have, small end to the larger end and anything in between as well that could be delivered by drone. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an update as to where we've got to. So in 2018, we joined forces with the RNLI and we embarked upon a small drone challenge to industry, as it says there. Now, what the important thing from my perspective was to make sure that this was a realistic scenario, end-to-end scenarios were run. So that's exactly what we did. We ran end-to-end scenarios. We got all our coastal people involved. We got lots of volunteers involved, and we got lifeboats involved, and we made that an all-encompassing trial. We operated that in St Athan in Wales because it gave us a good variation of terrain, but also we have a search and rescue base there, so it was a good opportunity for us to use that as well. And it really was an opportunity for the UK SAR community to engage with industry. And it says there in a coordinated way, but I think it was a bit more than that. It was kind of in a realistic way. And I think from both sides, so industry I think they got a lot from it. The industry partners that were involved, and certainly from my side and the RNLI got a lot from it as well. And I think, it really gave a good understanding of how it would fit into our operations, or indeed if it would fit into operations, and kind of what's missing and what we would need to be developed to make it fit more seamlessly into our operations. We were embarking just after that. We were embarking on a what we called our SAR search and rescue second generation procurement. And what we were doing there is we were bringing our search and rescue helicopters up to date. We were also in a new contract. We were also bringing in the aerial surveillance capability into that. So it became a holistic view of delivery of search and rescue in the UK. Now, recognizing the fact that we have all those requirements, we recognize that some of that should and could be delivered by drones. So we set out in 2020 to we put a contract at a call out for a drone demonstration and development project. And this was to look at the feasibility of drones in that SAR second generation. And the idea was that we would have a report that we could give out as part of the bidding documentation to say, this is how you do BVLOS flight in the UK. It was important to involve the regulator in that, which we did. We involved the regulator from the very beginning, from the setting of the requirements through the evaluation, through to actually the delivery of the contract. We didn't quite get to where we want to get to, and all joking aside, I don't think we intended to, because it was a really, really big ask. But it kind of enabled us to look at the barriers that were in place to stop us doing what we wanted to do. And that is, to prosecute time critical missions throughout the UK without the need to wait for special permissions. It's a big ask. We also flew into a neighbouring state airspace, should I say. We flew down to Ireland and we did some BVLOS operations just off the coast of Ireland. And they were really happy to have us there, and they were very, very supportive of us. In 2021, we embarked on the UAS prototype service, which I'll cover in a minute, and that led us to channel search and rescue, again, which I'll cover a bit more in a second. So in summer 2021, we were starting to recover from the COVID lockdowns, and the beaches got awfully busy, as I'm sure most of you will know. So that increased our search and rescue activity, as you can well imagine, throughout the UK. So we decided that it would be really useful to do some proactive patrols of the hotspot beaches. Now, obviously, we had helicopters to do that, which we used. But the discussions that I had with our service provider, Bristow, who were already operating a trial prototype service up in North Wales. So I had a conversation with them, and we decided that it would be really useful if we could extend the airspace that they already had in place slightly to encompass some of the beaches in North Wales that were hotspots, we called them, just to have that proactive patrol, leaving the rescue asset to do what it should be doing. We did that, and that was really, really successful. And we prosecuted lots and lots of missions up and down those coasts, up and down the coasts and on the beaches, just to figure out where the hotspots were. It's really complex airspace because of RAF Valley and their jet trainers going in and out all the time. But actually it worked really, really well. And Valley were very, very supportive of what we were doing. During that prototype service, we actually the drone responded to a grounded yacht off Anglesey. Now, ordinarily, in this situation, the local rescue centre at Holyhead would have had no choice but to send a rescue asset to check this out, because it didn't know any different. This was absolutely groundbreaking for the guys in the ops room, because all of a sudden the drone happened to be in the area, which was quite lucky. They tasked it, it flew down, looked at the yacht, kept on station. They got a live feed into the ops room. It was a game changer for them. They all of a sudden realized what I'd been talking about for the past 2 or 3 years. It gave them that situational awareness and stopped them having to send a rescue asset. The rescue asset was put on standby, but in this case, the yacht managed to self-recover. So no rescue assets were required, and the aircraft was stood down before it even lifted. Like I say, that was a real game changer for us. Just to see that type of information, the information that they could get. In 2022, I've already dwelt on this a little bit. For obvious reasons, we decided to, because of increased SAR activity, we decided to move the prototype service lock, stock and barrel down to the channel. And we operate a Schiebel S100 daily in the danger area that's shown on the left-hand side there. As I say, it flies daily. It proactive patrols up and down to check that everything's in order and everything's and no one's in trouble. We are supporting other government departments as well, Border Force, etc. But primarily we are there for search and rescue. We do have manned assets because the TDA isn't available 24 hours. So we have manned assets to fill that gap. And that ordinarily that was done by our aerial surveillance capability, but we found it took all the time of our aerial surveillance capability, and it wasn't available for the tasking, the other tasking that it should be doing, the counter pollution, the environmental protection tasking. So we put some manned assets in there as well, and we've got a couple of DA62s down there as well to add to that capability. I just wanted to kind of go back to our aerial surveillance and observation. Now, as I've said, this is currently provided by a manned aircraft, but they really are enduring dull operations. They fly around and round and round in circles for hours on end, looking for things, which is exactly what we want them to do. However, to my mind, that's something which could and should be done really easily by a drone. The issue that we have, of course, is the airspace doesn't allow for that presently. We're working, we're getting there, but currently that's our biggest issue. I mean, you can see the top left-hand picture there was a search that our aerial surveillance capability did for a aircraft that had gone down off North Wales, and that was one of the missions it did. It refueled and went back and did several others. Is that the best use of a manned asset? Probably not. And applications for that are, I mean, it says there, you know, that's to name but a few: environmental surveys, border surveillance, fisheries patrols, law enforcement. There's a whole bunch of things we do. We have a number of MOUs with other organisations, the MMO, who deal with fisheries protection, etc., and the devolved governments of those. So Wales and Scotland do it, and Northern Ireland do it very differently. So we have MOUs with them as well. Border Force, to name but a few. So to my mind, that is a really good caring and sharing capability that could easily be done by some kind of unmanned system. So what do we see the benefits of drones? And so we have done, as you can see from there, some manned-unmanned teaming, which went very well actually, and worked really, really well. It gives us enhanced situational awareness. I can't bang on enough about that. It really does give the decision makers and the responders that information at their fingertips. And again, you know, live imagery, etc., to Coast Guard ops rooms, as well as responders who are on top of the cliff. You know, they're able to look at it on their iPad, for instance, or in the back of their command vehicle. It offers persistent surveillance, and that's really important for us. You know, I'm lucky enough to live by the coast, and I live right next to one of our search and rescue helicopter bases, and I watch them plodding up and down monthly looking for missing windsurfers, missing kite surfers, missing jet skiers, you know, and they can be hours and hours and hours going up and down. Now, I'm not suggesting that we wouldn't send the rescue asset, but what I am suggesting is that we would send the rescue asset out for a quick and dirty search, return that to base when it needs to refuel, but keep it there, and then replace that with some kind of unmanned capability to supplement that. It can cover a lot of ground faster, and it can be more efficient, and it can stay there a lot longer. But the biggest thing for us is we see it, you know, as increasing our search efficiency, effectiveness, but perhaps most importantly, it's reducing risk to our personnel. So it's not putting our personnel in the helicopters, the guys who go up and down the cliff, the guys in the lifeboats. It's not putting them, it's reducing the risk to them. These guys go out, as you're well aware, in all sorts of weather. And if we can minimize the time that they need to be unseen, then the more the better. So that's just about all I have for you this afternoon. I hope that was useful, and I'm happy to take any questions.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed for that, Phil. Fascinating insight into what you have done and what is currently happening. We've got a couple of questions that have come in ahead of time. And I can also see that we've somebody has started us off as well. So I'm going to start off with this first question. In one of your slides listing the aviation assets included a UAV. Do you have any details on the drone and who's responsible for operating it?
Yeah, the drone is a Sheeple S100 drone, and it's operated by Bristow Helicopters Limited.
That's great.
And picking up on the next question, sorry, Alana, is they conduct and provide the training for the drone pilots as well. So they do that all internally.
Is it just situational awareness, or is there something more interventional that UAS can provide you with?
That's a really good question. So yes, it is at the moment just situational awareness, but we really would like to explore the interventional use that the UAS can bring. But until we bring it into service and we kind of get rolling with it and get experimenting with it, it's kind of difficult to judge where that is at the moment.
Mm-hmm. What are the cost benefits of the UAS versus the helicopter or other aviation assets?
We don't. So it's not something that we really think about, and I know that sounds bizarre, but so we see the drone being a capability enhancer rather than a money saver, if you like, putting it in blunt terms. But so what I mean by that is that actually we've got to have our helicopters anyway. So having drones is not going to mean that we can dispense with helicopter bases. It will save us some flying hours, and also, it will save us some risk to the crews. But it's really difficult to quantify that. So we kind of think of it at the moment, certainly in the short term, in terms of capability enhancement rather than cost saving, if that makes sense.
That does indeed. Now, I have a slightly more detailed question here that has been sent in from somebody who is unable to attend. He's interested to learn how the issue of electronic conspicuity in the North Sea and Eastern Atlantic regions can be assured, and whether operations currently take place within the designated temporary danger areas or within transponder mandatory zones. He believes the coverage in the northern North Sea is occasionally sketchy and wonders how this is managed for operations.
We don't currently operate in the North Sea. Mm-hmm. However, our assets in the south operate in. They have ADSB, so they operate transponder wise. It's not a transponder mandatory zone, but it is within a TDA. And the trouble with that is that we need to be able to respond. They're very timely. Like all the other emergency services, our response has to be immediate. So kind of we need to be any place, anytime, anywhere. We need to be able to fly that. It is really difficult in the North Sea, and I've spoken to some of my colleagues who have flown drones up there, or some of the industry colleagues who have operated drones up there, and it is a challenge. I agree.
How do you intend to engage with industry outside of your current contractors to look at the possibilities?
So we have as part of this contract, we have a really big on we are really big on innovation. So we have a huge innovation strand to the contract. So and what we do is we can either work separately with industry, or we can work with our service providers and industry and other industry to grow and to bring any other capabilities on. Now, the issue that we have with that, we need to keep abreast of the latest situation as well. So we do engage with industry outside of the contract to see what we can suggest for our innovation strand.
I'll add to that. Do feel free to reach out to us if we can help in any way on that.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, so where have we got to? Here we are. Do the UAS provide a live feed?
Yes, they do. They provide a live feed into the operations room at Dover currently.
Who is leading your engagement with the CAA, and where are you with progress? Definitely a question I'm sure we're all keen to know more about and share.
So we engage with the CAA on a regular basis, as you would imagine, and we have done for the past 5 or 6 years, and perhaps a little bit before that. We talk to them regularly anyway, but obviously it's a different department that deals with UAS. We approach them very much now in a twofold way. So as Coast Guards, we will approach them and talk about future and what goes on. But for the current state of affairs, we will talk to them with our service provider in tow. So we will go as a joint enterprise to them.
Lovely. That sort of slightly leads on to this next question. Can you say anything about the ease or difficulty of getting regulatory approval for flying UAS in the Channel? And has there been any kickback from the aviation community, general aviation in particular, about having a TDA in the Channel?
So I'm just trying to pick my words carefully. We didn't have difficulty getting regulatory approval for the TDA at all. It was our Home Office colleagues who actually got the approvals. We are now taking over, and not the running of it. We are taking over the application of the new for the new more permanent airspace, because obviously the problem there really isn't going away. We had some kickback from the aviation community, but largely they have been very, very supportive of us. And we're exploring things like having a crossing service. Currently there isn't. It's a whenever we're not operating, we make sure that everyone knows we're not operating. But in the future, we are in talks with LID Air Traffic, who hopefully will be providing a crossing service for us in the future, just so that we don't, we have no desire to shut the airspace down at all. Absolutely none. But it is the only way we can fly, as you are well aware at the moment.
You mentioned regulations as one of your biggest blockers. What other challenges do you have with the deployment of drones for SAR missions?
It's the timeliness. That's the big thing, really. So the response times, but also, so if I leave airspace aside, because I've kind of done that to death. So if I leave the airspace aside, it's the timeliness of the ability of the drone to respond, be in the right place at the right time, etc., and with the right capability. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, and that's a really difficult balance for us, because we don't want to replicate what we have for our helicopters unless we really have to. So it would be really useful if we had, if I had a magic wand, I would say that we would always have some kind of unmanned capability fly in the future. We would also always have some kind of unmanned capability flying, which can be diverted to any task that we choose. And when I say that, and I use that quite advisedly, and I mean not, so we would obviously search and rescue for us is that our top task. Counter pollution comes at pretty second on that list. But as I said, we would really love to share that capability, information, data, whatever comes out of that with other government departments and beyond. We have no desire to keep it all to ourselves. But I mentioned the MOUs earlier on. The MOUs that we have in place say that actually, if a search and rescue task comes up, all bets are off. It will be diverted. So there's an understanding of that.
That's very, very pleasing to know, I think, probably for everyone, just in case we're ever in that position ourselves. I have a question from somebody here saying, how can we engage to look at this innovation stream? And that might be something possibly, if you want to let me know more about, I can let everyone know in the follow-up to this afterwards.
Of course, yeah. I mean, come my way at first. So Eleanor has my contact details. So please contact me, and then we will engage you within that stream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will say it's very early days for that at the moment because we only signed the contract. We haven't actually gone live with the contract yet, and we only signed it 6 to 8 months ago. So we're in early stages of the innovation aspect of it yet, but we are taking it very seriously. We have made a start, but come to me in the first instance.
Wonderful, thank you. Are rotorcraft UAS critical for you? What are your thoughts on fixed wing? What are the benefits or challenges as you see them?
No axe to grind either way. Rotary aren't critical at all. I think there are aspects when a rotary may be better. There are aspects, probably more so, where a fixed wing would be better, as good if not better. It was just literally the reason we operate the Sheeple is because that's our service provider had a spare Sheeple that they could allow us to use. So it's literally as simple as that. But the work that we've done over the years, we've done an awful lot with fixed wing. In fact, if we leave quadcopter sized drones aside, we have done most work with fixed wing drones over the past.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Do you fly ARPAS operations during day and night or daytime only?
So it's day and night, but we are limited by the timings of the TDA, which I can't actually remember what they are at the moment. But we are limited by the timings of the TDA, but we do have the ability to fly day and night, yeah, and we do.
That's great. Well, that was a great flurry of questions. Please do continue to send them in to me. If we don't manage to get through them all, I will feed them on to Phil and get answers back for everyone afterwards. And we've got a couple more straight through. Does the Sheeple platform fly with just an EO/IR camera, or are there any more useful sensors used?
So obviously it has an EO/IR camera, but we do have a maritime radar on there as well, and we are looking at potentially putting a mobile phone detection onto the platform as well. So we are growing as we move forward.
I have a question from somebody here saying she suspects that a lot of the SAR missions are taking place in challenging weather conditions, strong winds, etc. How does this impact your use of drones?
Yes, that's a really good point. Actually, we always say that when everyone else stops flying, that's when we start. And I think the issue that we have is that obviously we need to be cognizant of the operating conditions of the drone. But generally, most of our tasks are done in quite benign conditions. It's normally windy, but generally they're done in quite benign conditions. And if it was, that's part of the reason why we can't dispense with the rescue assets, because they are an all-weather capability.
Indeed. And that's it at the moment on the questions. If anyone has any final ones to send on through, that's great. But if not, Phil, thank you so much for a really enlightening and a great start to 2024 for this series of webinars. We're delighted that you were able to join us and to share the Maritime Coastguard Agency's journey into using UAS. It's been absolutely fascinating to listen to as it goes through, and I shall continue to follow it with great detail. We have one final question. Could you provide any more detail on the trials being performed for coastal operations? What are the key challenges being faced?
Yes, I can. If you come to me with that, I will give you. I will point you in the right direction, because we're overseeing it, but we're not actually doing the trials. So I can point you in the right direction within the organisation.
That's great. Well, I think we might just think there's a number of thanks being passed on to you, Phil. So thank you very much indeed. We will look forward to seeing hopefully some of you again in the future for forthcoming webinar sessions as well. Please do continue to follow ARPAS either on our website, which is www.arpas.uk, or via LinkedIn, and we will keep you up to date with webinars that are coming up, as well as updates on regulations and how we can further support the industry as it expands. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for your time. Thank you for putting this together for us, and have a great 2024 and stay in touch.
Thank you. We will. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.